first understand the difference between a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor, something that took me 20 years to figure out. And you should find one of each of them. So a mentor, which is someone who can guide you and share their experiences with you and talk through things. A coach, who is somebody more than likely that you work with, that you can reach out to for help in specific things, technical or administrative or whatever it is. And then a sponsor, and that's somebody that's going to introduce you to other people.
Didn't want to come on originally.
This is the debut.
This is what?
A lot of people like that you brought on were like your friends and people you guys knew really well.
Well, that's usually.
And
where
then
you
I'd be
start.
like, what about this person? Or what about this person? And no one's let me down yet, so don't let me down,
Okay,
please.
no pressure. No pressure.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. On that note,
You got your
just gonna
notes
have
that
it
Morgan
on
sent you
real
earlier?
quick.
These are the talking points, okay?
No.
Don't miss any.
No, you guys are gonna love Jenn. So basically, Jenn Keida from Standard Insulating. Is it Standard Insulating?
It's standard heating, cooling, and insulating now.
Standard Cooling, Heating, and Insulating.
Heating,
That's
cooling.
Heating, cooling.
Heating, cooling.
someone didn't study on that.
That's
note.
a-
All right, let's start
That's
over.
not- I mean, no.
Standard Heating, Cooling, and Insulating.
Right.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is.
Is there an acronym?
No.
Are you working on one?
No.
Who's your marketing
Standard.
team?
It's standard.
Standard.
Yeah. We
People know you
recognize.
so well that you just need to know standard.
The blonde lady in standard, right?
The girl on the billboard?
Yeah. And TV and on your tablet, everywhere else.
Yeah.
I got a good, strong marketing team.
You have what?
I have a strong marketing team.
I know. Listen,
We're working
You know
on growing ours over there. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Jenn, are you hiring?
No.
So Jenn was Woman of the Year for the Utica Chamber last year. So obviously a huge accomplishment. But you really started from the bottom and made your way up to the top at Standard. So talk a little bit about, we've had this conversation, but
Yeah.
I think your story is so like touching and cool of like where you started, what you did when you went to school, and then where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Business person of the year, not women of the
did
year.
I say?
Women of the
Oh,
year.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll take that
notes-taking.
as well. But the reason I say that was because it was the first woman in 20 years to get that.
There you go.
And they just announced this year's recipient, which is Eve Vanderwall, another woman. So that was really great. But I feel like it kind of broke the glass a little bit on that from that perspective. But I've been with Standard for almost 24 years now. It'll be 24 years in December. But I went to school for art. I have a bachelor's in fine arts.
I did see that.
Yeah, right?
Well, that's
Interesting. I like that.
Everybody backs into what they do. It feels like, What'd you want to originally do with the art?
I wanted to go into art therapy originally. That was my intent. But I think I was the first person in my family to go on to college. So I just didn't know what was out there.
You just knew you liked art, so let's give that
I was
a go.
good at it.
Let's
That's
start
what I was
somewhere,
thinking. Yeah, I was good at
What's
it.
your favorite medium?
Painting.
Painting.
I would say probably oil back in the day. I could tell you it's been easily 20 years since I've actually painted, though. So, yeah.
lost it a little bit.
So, yeah, it's one of those things where life catches up, and next thing you
Sure.
know, you've kind of got to pay for bills.
This could have been a paint and sip, Morgan.
I
Sorry.
know, right?
No, I'm not. I don't.
You don't want to see my skill set now.
I didn't
don't
get
think.
Shirley's artistic ability.
No?
No, I'm not. No, not good.
Yeah. I think it's helped visualize things a little bit differently. So I'd look at things from a different perspective because of what I learned and, especially studying art history and things like that. But, so I went to school and I played soccer in school, which was pretty unusual at the time because it's going back 30 years. And they very, very, very little female representation, especially on the collegiate side. So that was pretty exciting. And so I played 4 years for Alfred University, which is a
Alfred,
Division III school. But
It is.
yeah.
Played against Alfred. I went to Fisher. So they were in the
same league.
same league
Yep,
there. You know 'em
exactly.
well.
Yeah. So so I came out of college and ended up getting married and having a baby real quickly, which kind of diverted me from going on to get my master's in art therapy. And next thing I knew, I found myself in a place where I needed to get a job. And I did a couple things, and then the opportunity in my family business came up, and so I stepped into a sales role, commission-based sales role.
I saw your track on the way up to the top, and it's very, very similar. I know you got to put in the different areas and know from the business from the bottom up and get you to the top. And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
owner.
It was a long road for sure.
Sure.
But I did sales for almost 15 years, And but that was the best way for me to get to know the business and where it could go. And I got really involved with New York State and the idea of whole house and building science, and ended up on a couple of national boards, which taught me even more. And so I was able to bring that into the business. And then my parents were ready to retire. They were the owners of the company before this. And so in February 1st of 2020, we did our final transaction to take over the business, my business partner and I, Rich Waite. And 6 weeks later, COVID shut us down.
Oh, well,
so the transaction was
welcome to the
perfect.
business.
I know, right? It was, in the transaction, we bought the business. So it wasn't a legacy issue. We paid out for the stock of the business quite a bit. So all of a sudden we found ourselves with a lot of debt, with all the responsibility of the company's debt, and very little work to be able to do, which is a really scary place to be. Really scary place to be. But it actually gave Rich and I an opportunity to kind of step back and see what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go and how we could streamline things. And we were also able to see the way that our team handled the transaction or the transition. Mm-hmm. Literally a transaction and then a transition, and nothing's really been the same since. So so that kind of catapulted us, actually. As much as it was so scary when it happened, I didn't know what was going to happen. It did really propel us to be where we are. So
yeah, changing, like going from one generation to the next is always difficult. Yeah. You want to respect where it came from, but you also have your own ideas, and almost COVID kind of gives you that reason to like, hey, we have to do some of this stuff now without having to go through previous. And you bought it out, and I just told my father I couldn't afford him anymore, and that's how we worked that out. But
there was a little bit of that too, right?
Yeah. but it's kind of in a weird way. It's you kind of need those big moments to say, okay, now we can go our other direction here, and because usually that transition is difficult. You know, you obviously they brought you up in the business, but things change.
Yeah.
But
did your parents? Were they the founders of the company?
They weren't the founders.
Or did they? Give us that background.
In 1980. My father had been working for an insulation contract because it was Standard Insulating at the time. And it was just he and the owner that worked for the company. And the owner fell ill. And so my parents, with a loan from my grandparents, bought one truck in the name of Standard, which has been around since 1928. And they ran it out of our home for the majority of my childhood. So it was a really small company. And then it grew. When Rich and I bought it, we were about a $6.5–7 million company, and we had about little less than 40 employees. So we'll break 30 million this year, and we have over 100 employees now, and we have a branch
amazing.
Office in Albany. So yeah, a lot of things happened in the last 4 years since we bought it. 'Cause we just celebrated 4 years. So really good times.
That's
Thank you.
Like exponential growth.
I know.
It
I was just looking
was.
at that.
That's
like,
pretty
visualizing that on
wild.
the chart. That's pretty
It's
quick.
really fun for a little while, and then it's like, oh no.
Is that when you bought it? You're like, we're just gonna try to size this
Economy
thing.
of scale. This
Yeah,
thing, like,
Was that your initial plan, or was it the COVID pause that said, all right, let's think bigger?
No, so really it happened without us actually planning it. We had both been employees of the company for a very long time. Rich had been an employee about 8 years longer than I had. And we kind of looked at our experience in our career and said, how do we do this different? Because there were some things that happened as I went through this that I wouldn't want to put other people through. I missed a lot of my children's upbringing. I had to make decisions between going to an art show and going to a conference, or so we stepped back and said, how do we showcase and help our employees have a career in insulation, and feel comfortable with that, and what are their needs? And so we really just started making those changes. And COVID helped because you wanted to retain people at that point too. So we paid people higher. We never took them off health insurance, even when we furloughed them for COVID. And we had 100% retention come back after COVID. But then I recognized the value of family at that time, because everybody got to be home with their families. And now I'm asking them to all come back. And so we implemented a vacation policy.
I was hoping you would bring this up.
No, it's definitely one of the coolest things we've done.
Are you listening?
We'll get back to her vacation load later. But anyway.
Yeah. So PTO is always great. The majority of my staff or our team, if they have PTO, they'll use it to fix the house or to run errands, something like that, and not actually go on vacation. And in a lot of cases, they just don't. If they have extra money, the extra money goes to paying bills. And I was watching people take time off but not actually engage with their families. And so we have a policy now that after you're with the company for 6 months, you get a $2,000 vacation reimbursement, and you get one every year after that. So it's separate than your PTO. And when I say reimbursement, you have to turn receipts in. So you got to go on vacation. You can't say like, I'm going, but so just give me my $2,000. So we've had people go on, like take their first plane ride because they actually had enough money to fly somewhere rather than drive there. We have people who rented a cabin because they couldn't leave because of family medical issues, but they rented a cabin and went fishing, which they never would have done otherwise. It's some really great. One of our employees took her kids to a baseball game, and he got to watch his favorite player hit a home run. Like, there's just things like that that are really exciting, and I hear from the families, thank you. You know what I mean? It's not about the $2,000 because we could give out bonuses. It's forcing the family to actually do something, and now it's a regular thing, and so it's every year. It's a lot of management actually, but it's the greatest stories. They get lots of PTO, and I think that's really important too. But actually, I've had some people say, "Can you just give me the money? I need to fix my house, or I need a new, I have to pay for my car, or I want to buy my daughter a new car." And we'll say, "Sorry, we'll find a way for you to get that extra money, but this is designated for vacation." It's been really great.
Yeah, there was a value of getting out and seeing the world and seeing different spots and opening your mind to new ideas.
Yeah, and it's a connection with a family that they normally wouldn't take because
what
if I'd given them
$2,000. What if you don't like your family? Like,
I did not designate. There was not a requirement they have to take your family, so you can go by yourself if you want.
If I go below $2,000 on black at the roulette table at Turning Stone, does that qualify as a vacation? If I get a receipt,
can we get a receipt out of that?
I don't know.
Does that
I don't know.
work?
You have to ask HR for me.
You find a loophole?
Yeah, because if you win,
Yeah,
now I
you
got
sound like a
$4,000.
lot of the guys that are working for me looking for the loopholes, but
No, that's a really cool idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I really like that.
Where'd that thought come from? Where'd that inspiration come from?
I think it was again just looking back on the things that we missed out on as we, our careers developed, and when we, as you're building a family, $2,000 to go on vacation, you could use that $2,000 to do something that impacts your everyday life, paying a bill, getting something fixed, and so when we looked back and said, how can we help change people's lives and how do we do this? Sometimes you got to force them. So that was one of the things that we forced people to do. But we also have gone through some other things. We unfortunately dealt with the passing of one of our employees. He passed away in a motorcycle accident. So we were not recognizing the impact that would have on our company. And so the way that we responded to that. And so now we offer 100% covered life insurance and disability insurance because we can see the value in that too. So I think it's just stepping back and looking at how can we take a burden off of our employees. They work really hard all day. What burden can we take off of them? So that was actually our initial agreement. Rich and I just said, let's just do some good things for people. We have the ability to do it now. We can make those choices. And then the next thing you know, other people wanted to work for us, and the excitement of the people that were working for us, they were doing more. And next thing you know, our sales were going up, and we had to hire a new salesman, and we had to hire extra crews, and it just changed how they worked together and what they were working for. So,
that's great. And I think you're saying you retained everyone from COVID coming back, which is great. But the way you grew and quadrupled basically, and it's been tough hiring the last few years.
For sure.
You've seemed to have cracked the code. I mean, people just filling up the seats that they already had, let alone 4 times.
Yeah.
That's
I
gone
know
pretty well for you.
It's believe me, it's hard. We have a really great. We kind of cross over our culture and our marketing and our recruitment so that it all kind of goes hand in hand, and that's been really valuable. My sister is our vice president of talent and culture. So she's
vice president of talent
and culture.
That might be better than vice president of vacations.
I know. You got to change your business cards.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Ask her. That just means she's got a lot of work because she goes from marketing to HR. So she's got recruitment, events, all of that, PR. She does all of that. But it's really great because she has a passion and love for this company too that comes out in all the things that she does for the company. So I have every once in a while like these crazy ideas, and then I kind of dump them on her lap and say, okay, figure out how you're going to give everybody a vacation.
Yeah, you're a visionary.
Yeah. And
we have a couple of those.
Yeah. And the team has to execute it, which, who knew the problems that would come along with those things. But so I have a really strong team. My business partner, Rich, has been with the company 8 years before me.
Did he come up on a different angle? Because you were on the sales side. I was curious on how that partnership
came
formed.
about.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So Rich, it's ironic. We went to the same high school, and I'm going to blow him out for how old he is right now, because when he was a senior in high school, I was in 4th grade, and because we were at the same school at Mount Markham, I got his autograph when he was a senior football player, because they came and spoke to us as 4th graders. So
is that hung in your office?
I know. It's not.
It's not.
I
That's
should.
official no.
But so I've known Rich, actually. He was before he worked for the company, and then he was one of my parents' first employees, and he actually installed, and then he became an operations manager. It was a real small company, so you played all these roles when it's that small. So then he became a salesman, and he was a salesman in operations, and then he grew into the first salesman that Standard had outside of my father. And so when I came on board, I kind of gave him the elbow, but he has a bigger elbow, so he was a great salesman. I came to work for Standard in our Connecticut branch at the time, and we closed that down a few years later, and I came back here. So at the time, they thought, there's not a market for 2 salesmen. How are we going to do this? But so I've been working along with Rich since that time. 2003 is when I moved back here from Standard. And Rich is exceptional at, he was a football coach. He was in the military. So he has an excellent way of inspiring people and gathering people and executing things. And I'm that person that's in the cloud saying, we should do this crazy thing. And so we're such a good partnership because of that.
Weird.
Yeah. It's weird how that works, right? Yeah. So we've
know that feeling.
Yeah. So we've worked together for, as long as I've been there, and he had been there before that. He taught me everything that I knew. He was the one who took me out on the job sites and trained me about what we were doing. And so we have this really great way of balancing the inspirational vision that I have, that I always run by him. And he's 99.9% supportive, even when it thinks it's crazy, because he supports me on that. But he rallies the troops really, really well, and he's the calm in my storm, basically. But he came up through the same way I did. He was in sales, which is the center of any business, and then as we were making this transaction, the basically transition of the company, it didn't just happen overnight. It was a number of years of trying to determine what that was going to look like and how it was going to be managed.
Values and payouts.
And values are always a fun conversation with the old parents. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that took a long time. And as we were working on that, Rich and I really kind of bonded at that point. We'd always done everything we could to make the company better, even in our positions. But this gave us an opportunity to kind of band together and say, how are we going to do this together? And I had made a commitment that I was not going to buy this company without him, and vice versa. And we knew that together we would really be able to do some amazing things. So
kind of kicking yourself for the major increase in sales for the new valuation.
I know, right?
Time that by a little late, but
yeah. I know.
No, but that's great though. I mean, I think sometimes it's easier alone, because if you fail, it's on you.
Yes.
But there's a flip side of that, of having a partner in crime, of having that extra brain and tackling things. I happen to have someone who's good at throwing things against the wall and really going for it. But that's really cool to see that work and have the partnership work in general. I mean, there's a lot of risk in that as well.
Well, the thing I think of that helped was being a woman in this industry has been very, very difficult, from the terms of me trying to figure out what my identity should be, shouldn't be, all the way through. He was one of those people that I never saw him look at me as a woman being different in this industry. So he never looked at me like that when everyone else did. And so it's funny because, in my beginning of my career, I cut my hair real short and put on work boots because I felt like I had to be one of the guys.
Yeah,
And that didn't go so well. So I found myself in a lot of positions throughout this time, trying to determine what was where I needed to be. I then decided I needed to be the smartest person at any table in our industry, because otherwise, how could a freckle-faced young lady know more than all the men in the room? And I had a really great mentor. I still have him as my mentor, Jeff Schaefer. And he's the one who told me, put your heels on, know who you are, and use that, and separate yourself from that. I was just at a conference in the fall, and there was a breakfast meeting, about 50 or 60 people. I was the only woman in the entire room. So still to this day, that's the way it is often. But my mentor helped me own it and, see the value in it too. So
does that make you feel self-conscious or empowered or proud or likely to get a date? Like, what's that feeling to be the only woman in there?
I think a number of things. When I first recognized and I stepped back, I actually took a video to send to my team saying, here we think this is, 2024. It's not the way it is anymore.
And you guys have a lot of girls in leadership.
Yeah, we definitely, definitely. It was just kind of hit me to say, this isn't changed as much as it should have. I feel it because I empower women around me. But in the real world, when I say that in our industry, that's just not the case. And if women are in there, they're in administrative positions and things that are more role.
Do you think they're squeezed out of it, or do you think they just don't have interest in being at that level in that business?
I think they're likely squeezed out of it. I don't think there's opportunities there. I don't think that our education system helps women or girls know that that's an opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of different reasons for it. If you go into a high school and they're, guidance counselors are working on what are you going to go to school for, where are you going to go, they're directing some of the young men who don't want to go to college to a trade, but certainly they're going to direct the women to, hairdressing and those kinds of things. And
in general, I think trade is underutilized. And,
I mean, for sure.
My father-in-law owns a machine shop, and it's just like you don't have to go to college, and you can come out making really good money out of high school. Yeah. Even a 2-year MBCC, I think has a great future in that space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those jobs around here.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, because I have 2 daughters and one is still in college right now, and there's a value to college that's different than learning a trade or learning a skill. It's about, maturing, growing up, learning to work as a team, all of those kinds of things. So I think there's a value there, but I do think that society just kind of moves women into a direction, and if you're trying to push against that, there's a reason. Why are you challenging? Why are you being, aggressive and bossy? I've been told my whole life that I'm aggressive and bossy. And I know men who are in the same positions as I am who have never been told in their lives that they're aggressive and bossy.
Sure.
And they're probably louder and more obnoxious than I've ever been. So I think it's still just a society.
Probably.
Yeah,
yes.
It is.
Yeah.
I think
it's
it's still
feather in the cap.
Yeah. So, but I think for a while there, I was trying so hard to my own identity and focus so much on myself and making sure that I was, taking care of myself in my career. And now I'm kind of on the other side of it, where I can step back and say, like, how can my experience help other people? What can I do to change things? What can I do to open up other people's opportunities? How did I fall on my face and help somebody else not do the same thing that they've done? So I'm kind of on that part of my career too, is I don't have to prove myself anymore. Now I need to help other people not feel that, the self-consciousness that they have, that women often have.
It kind of lines with what you kind of want to get off the ground, and we can talk about a little bit Nothing in Place. But can you talk about the event that you kind of want to form that's coming up?
Yes.
And you've talked to the Carrie from the chamber, and we hope to get involved. But can you kind of how did that come about, and what's the overall goal of it?
I attended a women's summit in Albany, and because we have an Albany branch now, and we were getting involved locally out there, and I brought my female team to it, and I saw the impact that it had in bringing women together and having conversations that I don't think generally happen in the workforce. It's things like, how do you manage having a baby and, nursing and working, and, do you have to take all the time off? And, there was just a lot of conversations that made the people that I brought feel really good about who they were and think, oh, I'm not the only one that's thinking this. Being a single mom and having to go to work and having somebody that's sick. And so there were some really great conversations, and I saw how it inspired the people that I brought there. And then I looked around in the Mohawk Valley, and there wasn't anything like that. We have a lot of great organizations that do a lot of great events, but nothing specific to empowering women. And so, I mean, we have some great organizations that empower women, but I wanted something that kind of like pulled the onion back a little bit and got a little bit deeper. And so I've got a lot on my plate. So the one of the things that I learned to be successful in business is find a really good team of people who can contribute and help make things happen. And so I reached out to Morgan, and she was one of the first people I thought of, and then Carrie Pulio from the chamber, and said, I have this crazy idea. Let's just talk about this. And, would the Sentinel want to be like that base to launch this? And then, and then it's kind of grown since then. And so we're this is all out of, scratch, and
Sure.
we're going to follow suit on some people who've done it successfully somewhere else.
Yeah,
but
well, why reinvent it?
Yeah,
It's being done. You don't need to
yeah,
do anything
exactly.
new, but yeah.
And then what happens is like, now, earlier today, I get somebody reach out, like, I would love to help with that. I would love to help with that. And next thing you know, I have like all of these really powerful women in the Mohawk Valley coming together to do something like that and to give back to the industries, their industries individually. And so that it's very exciting. It is
awesome,
really
yeah.
it's in its infancy, but it's exciting to think about. And
The
I think-
momentum can come out of nowhere, though. I mean, it just getting it off the ground is the hardest. But once it's
Yes.
going, I think this
Yeah.
is it's good for you.
Yeah,
really, to do
and you
that.
just got to put some really strong women together in one room, and it's amazing what can happen.
Sounds like you got some strength behind you, so I think it's going to be great. So with all this, where you are in your career, I was curious. You're still going for the MBA. Was that just
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
know.
because I thought about it myself. I'm like, what am I? I mean, I learn all the time. I read whatever.
Right.
That's fine. But I was like, I don't know. Was it worth the time? But I'm curious
Yeah.
of why of the move.
Well, so at BFA, my last math class was 11th grade in high school, and then I found myself actually playing the role of the financial executive when I first bought the company, and was very overwhelmed and realized that I don't need to be the expert to build a team, but I need to know a little bit about what everybody is doing. And I had gone through a program called 10,000 Small Businesses, which was out of LaGuardia Community College. It was a Goldman Sachs program. And it's for very small businesses. At the time, you had to be less than a $4 million company to do it when I participated. And it was like a mini MBA. So it taught you things from P&Ls to leadership to recruitment and marketing and risk assessment and all these things that I kind of heard peripheral and pretended a lot of times that I knew what it was. But and so it introduced that idea to me. So then I began reading an awful lot. Then I found myself leading a team of, at the time, about 75 when I decided to go back. And I thought, I don't know how to be a CEO. And I can read a lot of books, but I think I need to learn how to do this better. I actually joined another group called Vistage, which is it's a national group, but it's a group of CEOs too that help each other. So there's that commonality if you're experiencing problems, and they encouraged me to do it. And so this is my last semester right now. And so at the end of this semester, I will have my MBA through Boston University.
Nice.
Are we having a graduation party?
I know, right? Any reason to have a party, I'm all on
Lexi,
board.
Maddie, let's go.
But I find myself with a lot of my co-students who are very interested in getting really good grades because their GPA is what's going to launch them to get a new, new promotion. So they're very focused on just the grades, where I was more focused on what can I learn from this. So I think I'm getting a lot more out of it than some of my younger students, co-students.
Did you tell them to just go get experience and forget about the GPA?
I tried to. So they keep telling me, my boss is telling me that's necessary for my promotion, but
It's a standard is hiring.
I know, right? It opened me up to learn to think much broader as well, experiencing people, international students, those kinds of things. So, and there were some very specific things I learned about marketing research and how to to find research data for market analysis if I'm looking to go into another market. Just some of those kinds of things, but it taught me a lot about finance, which I really, really needed. And it just made me more confident when I was getting presentations by my CFO or by somebody else. A lot of it is on leadership and managing people, which I think we all bypass so much of the value of that. So I did it to kind of force me to learn. You can be overwhelmed with life and things, and so having to read in order to submit a project in a timely manner forced me to really engage, and rather than saying I've got too much on my plate right now, I can't do this. And so it did force me to do it, and it took me 6 semesters because I didn't take summer semesters, but it is probably by far one of the best things that I've done.
Nice.
And I don't even know what my GPA is. It's just know I'm passing. So.
That's okay.
It's north of 2. Yeah.
I know.
So you said you have a couple of kids that are in college?
Well, my oldest had graduated during COVID, and she
Okay.
lives in New York City right now and is pursuing her career in product development and marketing. And she lives in Vidai right now with her boyfriend. And my youngest daughter is in her 3rd year of college. She's going to school for mortuary science. Talk about an industry that's very male dominated.
I mean,
So do you guys like commiserate over homework assignments together? Or
Exactly.
That's kind of a cool
I know.
little thing.
We do talk about like
Yeah.
the computer program. Like, I don't know how to do so much of this is so technology based now. Like, how do I get on this blackboard? And
Oh,
I was on
blackboard.
vacation with you.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You were.
I was on
Got a
vacation with
shivery
Jenn, and she was like, "Oh, I gotta go finish my homework." And I was like, I don't even know if I knew that you were going for your MBA at that time.
Yeah.
So I have to go do homework. And I was like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
she just means like answer her emails. Nope.
Nope,
She
real
wrote-
homework.
Actual
Yeah, real
school
homework.
homework.
Yeah, yeah. I think I waited to get my MBA till my daughter had graduated from high school because I
that
didn't
makes
want
sense.
I didn't want to take the time away from her, and it actually has helped with a little bit of connection because now I can see the difficulty. Education is so much different now than it was when I went to school. So you don't have textbooks anymore, and you don't have the interactions like you used to. So that was interesting for me to see. So I understand more about the burdens that she's carrying these days. But she's very artistic. Both of my girls were super artistic. I think it carried down, and they use it in a way that they can have a career. So that was one of my goals with them, was to say, you want to be creative. I think that's outstanding, but let's do it in a way that you can use that skill set later on.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have any interest in joining the Standard family?
I think my oldest is starting to get a little bit of the itch in the bug. I wouldn't bring them on board initially because they need the experience of the world.
Get away
If they do come, I want them to be able to contribute rather than me just teaching them. So my oldest daughter works with our social media team and helps with that aspect because she had done that for another company at one point, which helps her just keep connected with the business and know what we're doing more than anything. But I want them to really live their lives too. And I want them to benefit from Standard in a way that means I can support them in what they want to do. So I don't necessarily see them being a legacy, in my business partner, Rich's 3 daughters, don't have any interest in being in the legacy either.
So there's 5 girls amongst the next generation.
There
Well, it's kind
are.
of fitting, I guess.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of
If you had 4 or 5 sons, so that would have been ironic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No. So Rich and I both have girls, and we don't have boys. So, but one of the things that we talked about doing is being really employee based. So as we talk about our exit plan, years down the road, it's going to have a lot to do with employees rather than selling it or having children come into a legacy. So,
Did you have siblings?
I did. Well, one of them's our vice president.
Okay.
So my youngest sister is the vice president.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
just curious how that
Yeah.
went, because
Yeah.
that could also get cumbersome.
Well,
as
I mean,
generations
if you
change and
ask
still
her,
can.
I think it's the most wonderful thing and a really hard, difficult thing to be in business as family, because it's hard to know when that transition happens. I'm Aunt Jenny at one point, and then I'm the CEO at the next minute, and like, what conversation are we having, and what are you? Am I talking to the CEO or am I talking to my sister? And so that blurs. But I also think that's what makes it so great, because she's so connected to me. She's helping to deliver the culture of the company, and so she knows who I am fundamentally, And so it makes it a lot easier. My other two sisters, they like most kids do, they worked summers and they had jobs there. My both sisters worked full time when they were much younger with the company, and the company was a lot smaller then. But the two of them went on in their own direction, and my sister Lisa Briggs, who you should definitely bring on at some point for this podcast.
Another entrepreneur.
Yes, another entrepreneur. She owns Whitesboro and Clinton Fit Body Boot Camp, and yeah. And so she's
also all over the billboards.
All over. Yeah, we laugh because sometimes we're on the same billboard, one on each side. So, and so, for her, I think she found it took her a little while to find her passion. And now that she's just embraced it really significantly. And she's impacting a lot of people in a very positive way and building a really great team and helping so many people. I want to say women, but there are men in her classes too. So she's having a really powerful impact on her own right that way.
It definitely helps when they have their own path. I mean, yes. I think that's where, and I loved how you said for even your daughters, it's like if you're going to come, you have to bring value. Mm-hmm. You can use it as a education, but not as a job,
right?
Because I'm hiring people to bring value. Right. And that's a really good way of putting it. I actually kind of like that a lot.
Yeah, it does help, and it helps them not feel obligated to have to come and start their career like I did real early. Mm-hmm. And have this like loyalty connection. It's about what's in their best interest too. I think I worked really hard in my career to give them opportunities that I didn't have and to give them guidance that I didn't necessarily have. So, which is, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't what you do, you should like to do. You should enjoy it. It's still going to be work, but you still want to, it's still going to be hard in times, but are you making an impact? I think purpose is a really big thing for people right now, especially for the millennial age. I went to work to feed my family basically and to take care of my family and grow a prosperous home. I see the shift here now. Like most of my employees are purpose driven. Am I having an impact on my community, the world? Our company has a huge impact on the environment. And so some of the choices that we make can really impact the environment. It can impact people's safety. And so when they recognize that, that's what draws them to the company too. And so that's for my kids, what is your purpose? And if you can find a connection in a job that gives you purpose and you can lay your head down at night and say, I made a difference. And Standard is great for that because we also offer the free program. And we've really capitalized on understanding how to deliver that to New York. New York's had some great programs, but they don't exactly tell you how to deliver them really well. And then they make them really cumbersome and difficult. So a lot of companies can't deliver them because they don't have the resources to do it. We've figured out how to do it. And so we're impacting so many people, getting them into the program and getting free insulation, free HVAC, free safety checks. And it's, it can be life altering for people when they have to decide on what to do. And suddenly we can come in and a widowed older lady who's lived in her house her whole life doesn't want to leave her house but can't afford it. And now all of a sudden we can create a comfortable, safe environment for her that doesn't cost a lot of money, and she's able to do that. So then the people who are doing the insulation and HVAC, which sounds so industrial, are really impacting people's lives. So I think that's one of the reasons we're successful too, is we've overlapped purpose with the technical aspect of what we do. Mm-hmm.
So can people just call and see if they qualify for that program?
Yeah, it's based on how much you earn, how much the household earns, and there's so many programs. There's so many different layers that's where we, I think, kind of shine as we identify anybody who calls us what layer they might fall into and what other programs we can tie into it. And we have this IRA money now from the federal government, and New York took a lot of that money or got a lot of that money. So how do we get people to capitalize on that and what's available to people? You as homeowners don't necessarily know what's available. And so it's our job to do that. So even people who don't get it for free, who get really significant rebates just because of what they're buying, because it's good for the economy.
Yeah, it pays off down the road for you.
Yeah, it does. And so those people feel really great. Like we just changed, how we're going to contribute to the world. We got one more gas furnace out of the, carbon, it's decarbonization as we call it, and electrification, which is just shifting there. But that's all very technical and very specialized with equipment. And it can be overwhelming to a homeowner. And when you go to your house, like, what's important to you? You want to be safe. You want to be comfortable. And so our team's able to deliver that. So
that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
And your customers feel like they won the lottery. At least
yes,
according
they do.
to Billboard.
They do. She does. She did. She got $16,000 worth of free stuff.
That's pretty solid. We'll quiz you later on open cell versus closed cell foam.
I can talk about that all day.
Yeah. But no, that's incredible because I mean, there's so many different avenues of a company, and that's got to show as great as it is. It's also new customer base coming out, a lot of trust.
Yeah.
I mean, the trust thing right now is massive on the marketing and companies these days. Yeah. I mean, it's so that's incredible.
Well, that was the other thing. So when we got into HVAC, we're not a legacy HVAC company. We only started this about 9-10 years ago, and I think it's a grimy industry. It just do because you can easily be taken advantage of, and it often happens. And as a consumer, you're kind of held hostage a little bit by these people.
What are some of the keys? Is it just oversizing the units and overcharging? Like what's the?
Yeah, I know.
Give a couple tips on.
I know. Right?
What are some of the loopholes here?
I think the main thing that I realized in the HVAC world was that HVAC companies use their service techs to sell things, and so a service tech has a sales quota in a lot of cases, which means when you call somebody to come fix your unit, they have a quota they have to meet by the end of that week or that month.
Repair costs could go up based on that sales.
Either repair costs or equipment
reinstall.
upgrades. Like, oh, I'm so sorry.
This isn't worth fixing.
Yeah, you need a new one.
Yeah.
And how are you going to question that?
Right, yeah.
You know, so they show you some fancy, testing equipment that's beeping red and, I got to shut your furnace down. Mm-hmm. We had encountered some of those situations and found out that they weren't. That it was a pretty easy fix. And so when we started our HVAC division, I said, I'm not going to have a service department. It's so grimy and the service techs are stressed out. Everybody's stressed out. And, a couple of our beginning HVAC guys were like, we'll see how long that lasts. And of course, I have to have a service team because things break and they need to be fixed. And so I said, okay, if that's the case, then we're going to go out for free. And what that means is I don't want anybody to be scared to call me because we're going to try to sell you something or we're going to charge you $200 to change a battery. Right. You probably saw that commercial too, which was a true story. But she, thank you. So it was a case where if we can go out to the house and we can fix it in less than an hour and there's no parts, we're not going to charge the customer. Like what value is that? I still have to pay the technician. I still have to pay for the gas to get out there. And for me, it was ethics for one, and we serve a low-income community, and I didn't want people to make the choice of not calling about a heating system, which could be a safety issue, because they didn't have $200 for it.
And they're going to call you again when something could go wrong.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The trust thing that I was talking about, yeah.
And we didn't see that. All these things kind of have snowballed from it. But we found, as long as we've been doing it, that consistently, about 50% of our calls are free. So consistently, 50% of the things that we go to solve, we can solve in less than an hour and there's no parts. Because, we as consumers just don't know how these things work very well. And oftentimes we just screw them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
the
then they
filter's
don't
been
work.
in there for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Or I didn't put batteries in the thermostat. Or,
Right.
the condensing line is full or whatever it is.
Sure.
I actually sound like I know
I was
HVAC,
like,
but
Jen,
people for that.
Are you on the service team?
Yeah.
She moonlights for fun.
I know, right? Yeah, moonlights. The other thing was I wanted to take the burden of selling anything off of service tech. I wanted them to be mechanics and to fix things, and that's it. And the motto is, if this was your mother or your grandmother, would you fix it or would you replace it? And so that's what they do. And if it has to be replaced, we're bringing in the sales team and not you, because we want you to fix things and not be burdened by selling things, which is very different than most other HVAC companies, to the point where I had a couple of national manufacturers call me to say, how are you doing this? This is not fundamentally how HVAC companies work, and you got to pay the guys. That's my secret sauce.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Which
is really not too, abundantly.
There's a lot of that
does
a lot of that lead into your core
values.
Values, but also not only that, but like you guys are great at insulating. So does that ever, the lead generation from those other calls have got to somewhat pay off too, right?
Yeah. It does. Yeah. I mean, our intentions initially were to help the low-income families be secure in calling us. And then when we came to fix that, we could introduce them to this program, which is still working. But what it actually is doing more, we actually get more calls from what I called market rate people. It's people that would not qualify for these programs. Because they're the ones that get taken advantage of because they've got the money. So it's, so those companies pull in and they see, this is a wealthy home and these people have money. And so they can afford to have a new system, where you call in low income family and you pull in and you think, well, these people are not going to be able to, pony up $6,000. So it's swapped, and the majority of our our service calls are not low income. It's regular everyday people who just feel like they've been taken advantage of. It's disrupted the industry pretty significantly, and it's changed how people approach HVAC in general. It's a lead loss for me essentially, and that's because I really feel like there's things that need to be fixed, and so I can also fix it for a lot less money too, because I don't have this commission tied to it and all these kinds of things as well. And so our service team is there to support our HVAC team and our installation team. Because in a lot of cases, when we tighten a house up, it causes an HVAC problem. So that service, because we tighten it too much, and so the air moves differently in the house. So the service team is important to that as well. So it's more of a support mechanism to the community and to us than it is like a revenue generator. So, which is a very different business model than any other HVAC company out there.
Sounds like a national opportunity here.
I know it does make me feel really good though. When I encounter houses that somebody else has been in and has red tagged it, and our guys go in and it's a very minor fix, and they don't have to buy a new system. Again, there's the purpose. What's your purpose?
Sure.
It's going to work every day. So that's a pretty unique thing that we do too. Our service techs, it took them a little while because for so long, because they've come from other companies where my value is generating revenue, and suddenly
the retrain is
their brain thinking like, am I not valuable enough for you to charge for me? Oh yeah, I mean I'm still paying you. So
I was gonna say, let's appreciate that too, because when you're on commission based, your income's all over the place. So it's nice to have some stability there.
Yeah, it does, and that's the intention is to really just fix things. And if you can't fix it, and you tell your grandmother you needed a new one, then you call the team and they'll bring in a salesman for it. And then the other thing that we do is we get very involved in the mechanisms of the house. So it's easy to swap in and say, or you had a 80,000 BTU furnace, we're going to give you a higher efficiency one and 120,000 BTU. And you're thinking like, I just got upgraded from a Hyundai to a, Lexus. And that's not always the case, and there's a lot of science behind it. So designing and understanding the balance of everything, all the engineering that goes into it is another huge value that we add. So in a lot of cases, we actually downsize equipment because we're insulating it and making it tighter. And again, that it's kind of like, okay, I could sell 120,000 BTU furnace, or I can sell you, a heat pump that's smaller, and we'll do two. It's all about engineering. So now we value the whole concept of building science rather than a quick turnaround. Like, I have a furnace in my warehouse, I can get it for you tomorrow. It's pretty cold out right now. Instead, we say, let's get you by for the next week and a half and figure out what you really need. So that's another way we've approached it. But I think in general, it doesn't matter if your industry is like newspapers or heating and cooling or automobile. I think the big thing is look at who we are as a society today and disrupt it and do things differently. And so I'm a huge Adam Grant follower. He's all about disruption. So
well, there's a huge you can never overserve in service.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the new way of separating yourself from a lot of these companies that are out there. But before I forget, Wes, would you call them so you would turn on the heat at RCC? My goodness.
For all those people in the winter?
Jeez. Even in the spring.
We have a Zamboni who goes around once in a while.
So cold.
I always tell people though, because insulation is kind of who the core of me is that, you can put a coat on a dead body. It's not going to warm them up. You got to have the engine to heat stuff up. So they go hand in hand,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's true.
So a heating company is not going to solve all your problems. An insulation company is not going to solve all your comfort problems. Bringing them together can solve those problems. So again, that's one of the ways that we became different as well.
I'm gonna be really pissed if you don't get at least 20 customers after this podcast.
So am I.
That's all, I mean,
I'm ready to run through a wall right now. I'm so pumped up about insulation and HVAC.
I know. Who
company.
knew, right? Who knew how exciting this could
So
be?
where to next? You've grown exponentially to this point. Are we plateauing here, or do we have wild ambitions beyond that?
No,
or
we
it depends
definitely
on life too. Like,
yeah, I think it's all of that. It's a balance of that. We have really high goals. We feel like we're impacting our community, and so we want to do that in other communities. So how do we take what we know here and be able to bring that to different communities that don't have it? Albany is a perfect example because NYSERDA, which is a New York State program, is based out of Albany, and they have very little market there because there's not companies delivering that in that market. So
is that your entry point then on that side versus just the core business?
Yeah, it really is. So that program is.
Are there other states that work similarly?
There are Vermont, Massachusetts, New Jersey. They have some programs. I think the IRA money that's coming down will probably create some programs that weren't existing before this. New York is just probably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful state that offers these programs. California is they're probably in a tight race with them.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people think that the money that funds all of this is tax money. It's not tax money. It's everybody who contributes to a utility pays into a utility. One of the 12 charges that you have on your utility bill is an SBC charge, which is a special benefits charge. And so that money is pooled, and the Public Service Commission delivers that to different programs that will help the utilities become safer and more energy efficient, which is what generates this program that we use. It generates a lot of it supports
sounds
solar.
Like a tax to me.
Yeah, it feels like a tax, but
but
it's not New York State budget tax. So
I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So when they come out with the New York State budget and you're thinking all these people are getting this stuff for free and that's happening, these people are still contributing to it. So but that's where the funding comes from. So the nice part about that is it's continual. And then the IRA money came in and just kind of gave even more of an amplified it even more. So so we have huge goals, and I'd love to see standards in a lot of different communities, and we're learning a lot about how to do that. And again, that goes back to the learning and training, and MBAs is, it sounds really great. We have this great product and service. Let's just do it in Albany and do it here.
Have a go-to-market strategy. And
it's just so much different. And how do we recognize when we're going down the wrong path, that kind of thing. So the long-term goal is, just to keep scaling and growing and multiplying and creating jobs and careers for people and serving our community, and all doing it to better everybody. So it sounds really funny, but I don't know too many businesses that can create careers like that our company can do, and service our community like we can do, and create investments for people. Like mutual funds don't give you as much money as a good insulation and HVAC system in your home does, because you're paying for your home every day. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to reduce that by investing in it, it's better than throwing that money in a mutual fund, because that's very unpredictable. This is very predictable. Right. So it's like we can help everybody from all different ends. So I think we're in a unique industry where if you do it right, you can have a positive impact all across the board. So yeah, I want to do this everywhere, at least in New York. Not in New York City.
So what do you do on the spare time now? It can't be much. You're going to school, you're running the business. What's for fun, though?
I know. Well, I have a lovely group of ladies that I spend a lot of time with, and we like to golf and travel and do those kinds of things. And supporting my girls is really important to me.
Sure.
And I have nieces and nephews that are, really important to me as well. And I want to travel, which is something I didn't get to do for the majority of my career because of the circumstances I was in. So, which is why I just got back yesterday from Florida.
With both daughters?
Yep.
Do they get the $2,000 credit?
No. They get a lot more than
that. That would be.
I don't even want to talk about their credit. I know. I don't even want to talk about it.
Why would they take the cut? Yeah.
I know.
Morgan really wants to know if you use a rangefinder. That means you're good at golf.
Yeah.
Do you use a rangefinder?
I
when
don't.
you golf?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Me neither.
I know. I don't. I'm not that good of a golfer. I just enjoy golfing.
We had Sarah Foster on, who was also part of our league, and I was telling them they're both big golfers. I was like, she's so good. She uses a rangefinder.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
That's next
I
level.
will tell you the reason I got into golf though is because again it goes back to that being a woman, and I'm like, where's everybody in the office today? Oh, they're at a golf tournament. I'm like, why didn't I get invited
You
to
guys
a golf
do
tournament?
a lot of golf tournaments.
Yeah, we do now. But even back then, I thought, I got to learn how to play golf because this is the only way to get out of the office every day.
It's a free pass to get out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I started learning how to do it. And now it's, it's just a good way to decompress and spend time with some really cool people. And actually, like, when you can gather good, strong people together, it's crazy what comes out of it. It really is crazy what comes out of it. So, I try not to have too much spare time, quite honestly. It's filled with something all the time. And reading or learning is generally fills in the gaps when I can.
Sure.
But, yeah.
All right.
Well, cool.
Cool.
Take us away here, Morgan.
Honestly, I reached out to Lexi this morning and I was like, give me some topics to ask your mom today.
She
and
texted
you
me.
hit them all. She texted you? You hit them all before I could even ask them. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about with standard? Or, you gave a lot of shout outs, but ideal client, anything else you want to mention? Advice? I know you're obviously very big on women empowerment. So maybe there's like some advice you'd give to women in the industry or going through their professional career like myself.
If anybody was to ask me what my number one recommendation for anybody, whether it was men or women, is to first understand the difference between a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. Something that took me 20 years to figure out, and you should find one of each of them. So a mentor, which is someone who can guide you and share their experiences with you and talk through things. A coach, who is somebody more than likely that you work with, that you can reach out to for help in specific things, technical or administrative or whatever it is. And then a sponsor, and that's somebody that's going to introduce you to other people. And they're never the same people, but for whatever reason in society, that's all a mentor to everybody else. But understanding the difference of those and finding those people, and they'll change throughout your time. But having a sponsor, somebody that's just going to say, come to the chamber meeting, I want to introduce you to some people, and asking them, please introduce me to this person or bring me to this event, doing something along those lines. A coach, find somebody that will tell you and help you get more skillful and increase your skill level and find resources to do that. And then a mentor who is just somebody that you aspire to be like. And, hopefully you get to that level with them and then find another mentor. Your mentor should always be somebody you aspire to be. I'm lucky that my mentor has been the same because I always still aspire to be like he is. But any advice to anybody, that is crucial and critical, and it gets pushed by. And oftentimes you think I'm at work and I have this really great colleague that works with me and they're my mentor. No. A mentor is really invested in your success, and a coach is invested in your training, and a sponsor is invested in you being introduced to a lot of people. Find those three people, and you will be successful much quicker than if you don't.
I love that. My last question is, can I come over so I can pick out some green for St. Patrick's Day?
Yes, I need my green hat. You can.
Oh, I do have it. Okay. But you have a whole closet full of green. Do you wear green every day?
I try to. I do try to. It's funny because, I think it stems from my school. It stems from athletics. Very, very competitive, and very to a fault sometimes competitive. And so my mascot and my color is green. So don't walk into my office with wearing something that's my competitor's color, or you'll be asked to put something else on, which I definitely do. It's not blue and black or purple, so you guys are covered.
All right, we're good.
You're
Last
covered.
time I came, I wore my green pants.
She did, and I noticed that. And I can pick up on it that people recognize me now. Kate Mondi, who helps us with our marketing, we did one of the commercials, and I walked in, and she's wearing her green pants. And it's just I know you thought about that this morning when you woke up, which means that I'm doing something right because it made you think. So, yeah, you can't walk into my office with red on. And if you have a red car, you got to park it in the back because I don't have to look at it. Oh, it's pretty intense. And we've definitely had some situations where people walked in and I'm like, can you get that guy a sweatshirt? I don't think I want to see that in the office right now.
I love that.
I know, standard hoodie. Oh yeah, I'm all about giving it away. But so green is I kind of bleed it for sure.
I love that. Mm-hmm. We need to start doing that, except I don't really like our blue color.
You picked it.
I don't really like it.
We blame it on marketing,
to
right?
Wear it? Anyway.
Well, who would have thought that green would have been something everybody wanted to wear? But I'll give a shout out to one of the ladies in our office who's getting married this year. And you were with me when this happened, when she texted me to tell me that she had chosen her wedding color, which was going to be green. Now, granted, I'm sure that her favorite color was green probably before she came here, but you gotta plug it. She lives in greens in too, and her Christina, who is one of our leaders in our Empower program, and I think I cried when she sent it to me. I couldn't believe it. It was so awesome, but it also makes me believe like these people love the company as much as I do. So that's really great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Morgan, good?
Yeah, no.
So wear green the next time you see me.
You got it.
Well, we usually ask Morgan or do some research and stuff. That was a missed note. That we
I sent you so many notes. Don't get me started.
We did not get favorite number, favorite color.
I sent a lot of details. Sorry I didn't say to wear green.
That seemed kind of big. But next time.
That's on me.
I can come here anytime, but you come in my office.
Gotcha.
It's a good idea to wear green. Well, everybody will notice. Let's just put it that way.
That's fair. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This is so
your
fun.
Story. Yeah. We hope to come back soon.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.